Welcome to the latest Bravo and Brava deep dives on Italian Americans in Hollywood.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm Daley Giacopella.
And I'm Sadie Bruces.
And today we'll be discussing the legendary Frank Sinatra.
One of the most famous Italian Americans in the world.
Absolutely.
Sinatra's story is incredible. It really does feel like a microcosm of 20th century America.
Especially the entertainment industry.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got IMDb and Wikipedia to give us the basic roadmap of Sinatra's life. But I'm really looking for those aha moments, those things you wouldn't know just from a casual glance.
Oh, I think we've got plenty of those.
What jumps out at you?
Well, right off the bat, what fascinates me is how Sinatra never shied away from his Italian-American heritage.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't really separate that from
no,
where
he
we
was
went.
born in Hoboken, New Jersey to immigrant parents.
Tough town.
His father, a Sicilian boxer and fireman, and his mother from northern Italy.
Okay.
Not exactly the typical Hollywood pedigree.
Now, you would think he might try to downplay that.
You would think so.
But he really leaned into it.
Exactly. And I think that authenticity resonated with audiences.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of his appeal.
Yeah.
This tough, streetwise persona that came straight from his Hoboken roots.
And IMDb mentions he even carried his own PA system around as a young saloon singer.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about hustle.
He had that grit and determination from the start. Yeah. But here's the thing. Underneath that tough exterior,
right,
you also had an incredible vulnerability that he poured into his music.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about those heart-wrenching ballads.
Yes.
The way he could convey such raw emotion.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating contrast.
It's like he embodied this duality of the Italian-American experience.
Yes.
Toughness and tenderness all rolled into one.
Exactly. Now, his career really takes off when he joins groups like the Hoboken Four and later bands led by Harry James and Tommy Dorsey. These were crucial learning experiences.
So he's honing his craft, developing his stage presence.
Right. And by 1942, he's ready to break out on his own.
Wow.
That's when Sinatra mania hits.
Yeah.
And he becomes a teen idol practically overnight.
The Bobby Soxers.
The Bobby Soxers were swooning.
It's amazing how quickly he rose to fame.
It really is.
But his ambition didn't stop at music.
Right.
He set his sights on Hollywood in the mid-1940s, landing roles in films like Anchors Aweigh and On the Town.
And this is where Sinatra surprises us again. He wasn't content with just being a handsome crooner on screen.
Yeah.
He takes on a film project called The House I Live In.
Okay.
A short film promoting tolerance and understanding.
Wait, a short film about tolerance?
Yes.
In 1945?
Yes. And it actually wins him a special Oscar.
Wow.
This is just a few years after World War II, a time of intense social and political change.
Yeah.
Sinatra uses his platform to speak out against prejudice.
Wow.
Which was a pretty bold move for a rising star.
I had no idea about this film.
Yeah, it's a hidden gem.
It really challenges the perception of Sinatra as just a tough guy.
Absolutely. He was more complex than that.
Right.
And this complexity is even more evident when you look at his career trajectory.
Okay.
He experiences a dip in the early 1950s, a divorce, some less successful films, even a vocal cord hemorrhage.
Oh, wow.
It's a real low point.
But then he makes this incredible comeback with From Here to Eternity in 1953, right?
Exactly. He wins another Oscar for his performance.
Wow.
And it revitalizes his career.
Yeah.
That role, a tough but sympathetic soldier, really resonated with audiences and showcased his dramatic range.
It's interesting. It seems like his life mirrored his art in a way.
Yeah.
Overcoming adversity and coming back stronger.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And from this point on, Sinatra really leans into roles that reflect his persona.
Right.
Tough guys with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
He's known for his spontaneity and energy on set, often nailing scenes in a single take,
Right.
earning him the nickname One Take Charlie.
Wow. So he's bringing that same raw energy from his music to his acting.
Precisely. And he's not just acting, he's also producing films through his own production company.
A lot of performers do that.
They do, putting out hits like A Hole in the Head and Robin and the Seven Hoods.
He even directs a movie.
He does.
A Japanese-American co-production about World War II called None of the Brave.
Talk about a diverse resume. This guy was a force of nature.
It's clear that he had this incredible drive and passion for everything he did.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to his music career.
Okay.
After stints at Columbia and Capitol Records,
Huge labels.
he takes the ultimate leap
Wow.
and launches his own label, Reprise Records.
Which became a major force in the industry.
It did.
He was not just a talented performer, but also a savvy businessman.
That's right.
Yeah.
But even more remarkable is his versatility as a singer.
Yeah.
He seamlessly moves from swing to torch songs to those iconic ballads that have become synonymous with his name.
Like My Way, which captures that blend of vulnerability and strength that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And we can't forget about Sinatra's impact on Las Vegas.
Right.
He's one of the first residency entertainers there, helping to transform the city into the entertainment mecca it is today.
He's performing at legendary venues like the Desert Inn and the Sands, drawing huge crowds and becoming synonymous with the glitz and glamour of Sin City.
And of course, there's the legendary Rat Pack era.
Oh, yeah.
Those electrifying performances with Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
They created a whole new kind of entertainment experience full of camaraderie, humor, and musical brilliance.
It felt like they were having as much fun as the audience.
Absolutely. They weren't just performers, they were entertainers in the truest sense of the word.
Right.
But amidst all the glamour and success, Sinatra's life wasn't without its shadows.
Yes, his fiery personality and tumultuous personal life, including his marriages to Nancy Barbado and Ava Gardner, were often splashed across the headlines.
And then there are those persistent rumors about connections to organized crime.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the most celebrated figures have their complexities and secrets.
That's what makes his story so intriguing.
It does.
The highs and lows.
Yes.
The triumphs and controversies.
Yeah.
He was a man of contradictions, larger than life and yet still somehow relatable.
He was a true original, and that's why, even decades after his death, we're still fascinated by Frank Sinatra.
So what's next in our deep dive into Sinatra's world?
Well, we've touched on his incredible career, both in music and film.
Right.
But in part 2, we're going to go deeper.
Okay.
We'll explore the nuances of his singing technique.
Oh, yeah.
That incredible phrasing that made his delivery so unique.
Okay.
And we'll analyze his acting style,
All right.
looking at some of his most iconic roles. Get ready for some serious Sinatra appreciation.
I can't wait. Join us next time as we continue our deep dive into the life and legacy of Frank Sinatra.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Frank Sinatra.
So glad to be back. In part 1, we laid the groundwork to Sinatra's journey from those Hoboken streets to global stardom. His successes in both music and film, but also those hints of darkness and controversy that trailed him.
Exactly. And now we're going to zero in on what made Sinatra such a captivating performer.
Let's start with that voice, the voice, as they called him.
Right.
What was it about Sinatra's singing that resonated with people so deeply? Across generations?
Well, first you have that instrument itself.
Right.
His voice was rich, resonant, with its incredible range and control.
Yeah.
But what really set him apart was his ability to convey emotion.
You can hear the heartbreak in every note of a song, like One for My Baby and One More for the Road.
Precisely. He can make you feel every word he sang.
Yeah, and as we touched on earlier, he wasn't limited to one style.
Yeah.
Sinatra could deliver a swinging big band number just as effortlessly as a tender ballad.
Oh, yeah.
Or a torch song full of longing.
Exactly.
Wikipedia mentions this term phrasing,
Yes.
how it was a big part of Sinatra's magic. What does that actually mean in terms of singing?
Phrasing is all about how a singer delivers the lyrics. It's the pauses, the breaths, the subtle shifts in emphasis that give a song its emotional weight.
Okay, so it's not just hitting the right notes.
Yeah.
It's how you deliver those notes.
Exactly. Sinatra was a master of this.
Yeah.
He understood that the spaces between the words were just as important as the words themselves. He'd stretch out certain syllables for dramatic effect, hold back on others to build tension, and his timing was impeccable.
I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
It's like he's talking to you, sharing a secret, not just performing a song.
That's a great way to put it. He had this conversational quality that drew listeners in, made them feel like they were experiencing the emotion right alongside him.
And that ability to connect with an audience.
Right.
To make them feel something.
Yeah.
That's what truly elevates a singer from good to legendary.
Couldn't agree more. Now, that same instinct for connecting with people,
Yeah.
for inhabiting a character, is what made Sinatra such a compelling actor, too.
IMDb describes him as an instinctive actor, often playing roles that mirrored his tough guy persona. And he was famous for doing scenes in a single take.
Right. One take Charlie, as they called him.
Mm.
He had this incredible ability to be present in the moment,
Mhm.
to react genuinely to his scene partners.
Yeah.
And he brought a raw energy to his performances that was impossible to ignore.
You can see it in films like From Here to Eternity and The Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, absolutely.
He's so intense.
Yes.
So believable.
And it wasn't all about toughness.
Right.
He could also be incredibly vulnerable on screen.
Yeah.
Remember his portrayal of the drug addict and the man with the golden arm?
Heartbreaking performance.
It's really powerful.
It sounds like he had a deep well of emotion to draw from, both as a singer and an actor.
And he wasn't afraid to explore the darker sides of human nature. That complexity, that unpredictability is part of what made him so captivating.
But we've explored his artistry.
Yes.
But what about Sinatra's broader impact? He undeniably left a mark on American culture, far beyond music and film.
Absolutely. His style, his attitude, his whole persona influenced a generation. As you mentioned earlier, he was instrumental in making Las Vegas what it is today.
He paved the way for all those residency entertainers.
Oh, did.
Those massive stage productions.
Exactly. And think about his collaborations.
Oh, yeah, so many.
He worked with some of the greatest talents of the era.
Right.
Nelson Riddle, the brilliant arranger.
Yeah.
Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. with the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
They were innovators pushing the boundaries of entertainment.
And his early support for civil rights.
Yes.
Refusing to play segregated venues.
Mm-hmm.
Releasing a film promoting tolerance right after World War II.
It shows that Sinatra wasn't just about entertaining. He was willing to use his platform to speak out against injustice. Of course, there were contradictions, too. Those rumors of mob connections never went away, and his personal life was messy, to say the least.
Those darker elements are part of his story, too.
Right.
Even if the full truth is elusive. It makes him all the more fascinating, doesn't it? This mix of artistry, charisma, and flaws.
He was a product of his time with all its complexities.
Yeah.
But there's something timeless about Sinatra's appeal as well. His music, his films, they still resonate with audiences today.
So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, what question should we be asking ourselves about Frank Sinatra?
I think the big question is, what's his legacy? How should we remember this complicated, contradictory, undeniably talented man?
That's a great question. And to answer it, we need to delve into the more challenging aspects of his life.
Okay.
Those mob ties, his turbulent relationships, the shadows that sometimes loomed over his career.
We'll tackle all of that and more in the final part of our deep dive. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Frank Sinatra.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? From Hoboken to Hollywood, from swing to those iconic ballads.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We've seen Sinatra's artistry up close, that magical voice.
Yes, his electric stage presence.
The way he could inhabit a character on screen.
But we've also hinted at the darker side of his story.
Right, those rumors of mob ties, the volatile relationships, the controversies that never seem to go away.
And those are the threads we're going to pull on in this final part. It's not easy to reconcile the Sinatra we admire with the Sinatra who made headlines for all the wrong reasons.
That's the challenge, isn't it? Trying to understand the whole man,
Right.
the good and the bad. So let's start with those alleged connections to organized crime.
Okay.
It's something that comes up every time Sinatra's name is mentioned.
It's almost as if those rumors have become part of his legend.
Exactly. But what's truth and what's speculation? Both IMDb and Wikipedia mention Sinatra's friendships with figures like Sam Giancana,
Right.
a notorious mob boss.
And there were stories about him frequenting mob-run establishments, even using his influence to help certain individuals.
Right, and these weren't just idle gossip.
No.
The FBI investigated Sinatra for years, trying to establish concrete links.
But they never formally charged him with any crime related to organized crime.
That's true.
Yeah.
And Sinatra himself always denied any substantial involvement with the mob.
Right.
But the smoke never quite cleared, did it?
It's hard to know for sure, but it definitely adds another layer of intrigue to his story.
It speaks to that duality we keep coming back to. The charismatic performer who seemingly had it all, and the darker impulses that may have lurked beneath the surface.
And that duality also plays out in his personal life.
Yeah.
Sinatra was known for his passionate, often tumultuous relationships,
Well, yes.
which were constantly in the spotlight.
His marriage to Ava Gardner is a prime example.
Oh my gosh, yes.
A whirlwind romance, intense chemistry, but also lots of drama and public feuds.
Wikipedia describes their relationship as turbulent,
It was.
marked by fights and altercations.
They were both strong personalities used to getting their own way.
Yeah?
It was a recipe for fireworks.
And their divorce in 1957 didn't end the fascination.
Yep.
People were still captivated by the Sinatra-Gardner saga for years to come.
It's the classic Hollywood tale of love, passion, and heartbreak. And Sinatra wasn't a stranger to any of those emotions. He had 3 other marriages and countless other relationships.
There seemed to be this magnetic pull to him.
Hmm.
He could charm anyone, but he could also be possessive and jealous, which led to conflict.
It reminds us that even icons have their flaws.
Yeah.
And those flaws can have real consequences in their personal lives and the lives of those around them.
It's a humanizing element, I suppose. It makes him less of a myth and more of a man with strengths and weaknesses like everyone else.
Exactly. Now, despite all the personal turmoil, Sinatra also had a more altruistic side. He was vocal about various social and political causes throughout his life.
Wikipedia mentions his early support for civil rights, which was quite progressive for a white entertainer in that era.
He spoke out against racism and discrimination, refused to play at venues that segregated audiences.
And then there's The House I Live In, the short film he made in 1945, promoting tolerance and understanding.
Oh, powerful film.
It actually won him an Oscar, which shows how seriously his views were taken.
It's still relevant today. It reminds us that we all share a common humanity, regardless of our differences.
So while Sinatra was certainly a man of contradictions, he also used his platform to advocate for what he believed in.
He wasn't afraid to take a stand, even if it meant going against the grain. That's something to admire, even if we don't agree with all of his choices.
And it brings us back to that question you posed earlier. What is Sinatra's legacy?
Right.
How should we remember him?
It's not a simple answer. We can't erase the darker aspects of his life, but we also can't discount his artistry, his impact on entertainment, his willingness to speak out against injustice.
It's a mixed bag, but one that continues to fascinate and inspire us.
Definitely.
His music still moves people, his films are still enjoyed, and his influence can be seen in countless artists who followed in his footsteps.
He left an undeniable mark on the world, and that, I think, is the ultimate measure of his legacy.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the life and legacy of Frank Sinatra, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's this. Sinatra's story reminds us that human beings are complex. We're capable of great things and not so great things. We can be both charming and flawed, generous and selfish, visionary and reckless, and that's okay.
It's about embracing the whole picture, the light and the shadows,
Yes.
and recognizing that even icons are human at the end of the day.
Sinatra's life was a roller coaster of triumphs and tragedies.
It was.
But through it all, he never lost that raw energy, that undeniable charisma that made him a legend. And that's something worth remembering.
What a journey it's been.
I've enjoyed exploring Sinatra's world with you.
Thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to Bravo and Brava and turn on your notifications on for daily podcasts on Italian Americans in Hollywood.